Hello, everybody. This has been a fun week. Everybody had a lot of snow last night. This is Thursday evening. I was wanting to know where everybody was on Thursday evening when all the snow came and what you were doing. I think everybody was probably making cookies. That's what we were doing. We finished decorating the tree in the back. Next week, I want to show you our tree in my little village that I'm not quite done with yet. There's a couple pieces of it fine, and I have my old train set up too, the one that I got when I was about 5 years old. It's a little Lionel set. So I hope to have all that running next week. I can show you. And but I was wanting to know if you guys could send me a picture of your Christmas tree, or you standing beside your Christmas tree. I'd like to see it. And then you can send it to my phone, my text phone. It would be 814-386-1865. I'd love to see your Christmas trees and you with all your presents and everything. That would be exciting for me. I really miss you guys, and it would be nice to see a picture of you anyways, if I can't see you in person. But that's what I want for Christmas, is I want my Sunday school class back. So, but anyways, we made about 150 cookies last night, different kinds of cookies, and so we had a lot of fun with that. Anyways, I was wanting to know if you guys made cookies too, because I went to the store the day before and they're out of sugar and brown sugar. And there's only like 2 packs of flour left, so everybody was getting ready for making cookies. So it's the season to make cookies, right? Anyways, I'm going to do the lesson on Nebuchadnezzar's dream today, and also Daniel and the Lion's Den. I'm going to put them two together, since we missed a couple. And then next Sunday, which will be the Sunday after Christmas, I will be given the lesson of the birth of Jesus. And so that's what I'm going to be doing, showing all the pictures of the tree and everything. But I wanted to kind of wait till it's closer to Christmas. It'll be a little after Christmas. So Christmas happens a few days afterwards too. It goes with the story. And so I want you to think about a little bit about Christmas and what the story means. You know, we read Luke 2 every year, and but take it into a little bit more of a perspective of how it really was. You know, whenever we do our Christmas skits and everything, we have Jesus in the manger, and then we have the shepherds coming, and then we have the wise men coming, but the wise men didn't actually come to the stable. He was probably 3 or 4 years old or so whenever the wise men finally found him. He was back home where he was, where he lived. And so, you know, maybe we want to dig a little more deeper on how the events actually took place. That would be something to do here during your Christmas vacation, because I guess you're all on your last week of Christmas, or yeah, last week of Christmas, last week of school for the year 2020. Whether it's virtual or in person or whatever it is, this is the last week probably, because I'm thinking you'll probably have most of the next week off and the next week. So anyways, Nebuchadnezzar's dream. He had a couple dreams that Daniel had interpreted. This one here we're going to talk about is in Daniel 4. And I really want to encourage you guys to read Daniel, the whole book of Daniel, because there's a lot of really good things about how their faithfulness, him and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, had faith in God and stood up to the test that came their way. Whenever they're supposed to denounce God, he wanted them to, you know, stay strong. And last week we talked about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and they stood for God. And so a whole nation actually became saved because of their faithfulness. Now, if they would have kind of just reneged and say, no, we'll bow down to your statue, and just kind of pray behind their backs or whatever, and just act like, you know, they're not really following them, that wouldn't have really done anything for the people. And whenever we live our faith for Christ, it's to show other people the strength of God and bring them to Him. It's not necessarily just to save our necks too, but there's people out there that need to know the truth, and if we have something to stand up for, they might have a little more interest in following God themselves. So anyways, Nebuchadnezzar's dream was a dream about a great big tree. You know, I've seen a big tree. I had a picture of a big tree last week in my thing down by the stream where I work. And And so this tree was standing there, and in his dream, he said that it went to the sky almost, and everybody could see it. And it was beautiful. It had nice leaves, and all the animals stayed underneath it for shade and whatever. And then there's an angel came down from heaven and said, cut down the tree. And so take off its leaves and its fruit and let the animals hurry away, it said. And then the angel said, leave the stump and the roots. Take away everything else. And so this kind of really upset to the king, Nebuchadnezzar. He didn't know what it meant. Oh, and then it also said that he would be eating grass. Mm-hmm. You ever eat grass? Good fiber. Anyways, so he didn't know what this was meant. And so he asked Daniel to interpret it for him. And Daniel was afraid of what the dream meant because he knew that it was going to mean something was going to happen to King Nebuchadnezzar. Okay, so he told the king that what it meant. It said, the tree is you. You are that tree. You're great and strong, and your greatness was all reaches the sky. Everybody knew who you were. And so he said that you were being very proud and you're kind of not really giving God glory. And so God wanted to humble you a little bit. So he said he's going to cut the tree down, which means you will be taken away from your people, and you will be living in the wild with animals and eat grass like the animals do. And the stump that was left in the ground is your kingdom will not be completely destroyed. You will someday be restored to your kingdom when you acknowledge God as the ruler over everything. And then whenever King Nebuchadnezzar's dream came true about a year later. And he walked on the roof of his palace and said, Babylon is great. I built this big kingdom. I'm the lord over this. And then all of a sudden his kingdom was taken away from him, like it said in the dream. Somebody came in and overthrew him. But then Nebuchadnezzar looked up at heaven here sometime later. Oh yeah, and it said he ate grass like cattle. His hair grew like the eagle's feathers. Eesh. And he had nails that grew like a bird's claw. I don't know if you've ever seen a bird's claw, but their nails are about this big. I don't know if you ever seen anybody's fingernails so long that they curled down. I had a hairdresser that was that way, and so whenever she was cutting my hair, and her fingers are like right in front of my face, it was like, kind of scary. But anyways, so he was out in the wild, and he was humble. That's about as humble as you get whenever all you had to eat was grass. And so anyways, then he got I said, I need to make things right with God. And so remember, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego brought him to Christ in his kingdom whenever they stood firm. And then he was thrown in the fiery furnace, and they all survived, which brought the king to repent to God. And so after this, King Nebuchadnezzar got his kingdom back, and he followed God until he died. And then after he died, King Darius took over and took over his kingdom. And Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego still were in captivity. Remember, Israel was taken captive by King Nebuchadnezzar, and he kept these guys because they were bright, handsome, and everything, and they could run the kingdom for him. And so Daniel was kind of at the top of the heap there. He was one of the better ones that was very knowledgeable and did very well with everything. And so Daniel was lord over. He had Daniel take care of everything in his kingdom pretty much. And this made some people a little upset. Some of the guys that were under him knew that Daniel, they're kind of jealous of him, and they wanted to get rid of him. So they didn't know how to get rid of him. And so they thought, King Darius, you're a pretty nice guy, and you're the king. Everybody should bow down to you and not anybody else for 30 days. Nobody else is to bow down to anybody but you. And so they said, if somebody does not bow down to you and somebody else, like God or somebody, then they should be thrown into the lion's den. And that's kind of a gruesome way to die if you throw them in a den of hungry lions. Yeah, that don't end very well. So anyways, King Darius said, "Oh, that sounds like a great idea." And he's there probably playing these video games because he had everybody else running his kingdom for him. He didn't have to do anything. So he just pretty much loafed around, didn't do anything, ate and drank and whatever. So anyways, they made this decree that everybody's to bow down to King Darius whenever they hear music. And so that was the other. Anyway, so this time of day they're supposed to pray, and Daniel knew that the law was not allowed to pray to God, but still Daniel did because he wanted to be faithful to God. And so I want to think about that a little bit. What if your faith was tested in that way? Now, we were tested a little bit, people make fun of us or really get ridicule us for being Christians and make fun of us, call us names or whatever. But that's kind of the extent of our Christian persecution. But what if our life was on the line? How do we stand up for that? Would we stand up for that if our life was on the line? That's a tough question. Because we think, oh, yeah, you'll do. Remember how Peter said, I'll stand for you no matter what, but then he ended up denying Christ 3 times? It's easy to say that, but when it comes right down to it, it's pretty tough. But Daniel was strong in his faith to God. If he couldn't bow down to God, he didn't want to bow down to anything else. He would rather die than to bow down to something that doesn't, do anything for him. He knew what God was about. And so he knelt down to pray, and they caught him doing that, and so they went back to King Darius. Hey, Daniel didn't obey your law. He was bowing down to God. He was praying to God. And King Darius knew exactly what happened. He knew that these guys were just setting him up because they wanted to get rid of Daniel. But he made the law, and the law can't be changed, and so he had to throw Daniel in the lion's den. And when he did, he said, "May your God that you serve save you." Okay, so they threw him in the lion's den, and Daniel was not afraid because he knew God was with him. We don't have much to fear when we know that God is with us. And so I don't know what he did all night in the lion's den unless he was there petting them, if he curled up beside one of them to keep warm when he slept. I don't know what he did, but the lions didn't hurt him. And all night King Darius couldn't sleep, he couldn't eat. He was a little worried about what was going to happen to Daniel. And so after that, he got up and he ran to the lion's den and said, "Daniel, my servant, are you still here?" And he said, "Yes, I am safe from the mouths of the lions because the Lord saved me." And so Daniel wasn't hurt because he had trusted God. God watched over him, and he would watch over us too whenever we're put into situations like that. And so he had the guys that had him make this law and tried to get rid of Daniel. He had them thrown in a lion's den, and well, things didn't go quite as well for them as it did Daniel. Let's just say the lions just kind of took care of him. And that's kind of a gruesome way to go, but whenever you are faced with something, and our church is actually being kind of attacked now. We have these lockdowns now with this virus going on, and governors are telling us to shut down our churches. And, so what do? Do we do the right thing and shut down because we don't want to get people infected? But a lot of people are saying the governors are doing this because they want to just keep us from meeting and just kind of tell us what to do, which there may be truth to that. I don't know. I'm not going to get political about this, but it could be the time coming whenever they want us to shut church down, not necessarily because of the virus, because they don't want us to meet anymore. So what would our church do? And right now, with this thing going on, whether we meet or not, our church heads, the elders and the pastors and the leaders of our church have a choice to make, and they're not, it's a tough choice to make because they got to make it for the church. And so I just want you to think a little bit about this week, whenever you have to stand up for Christ. Are we strong enough to do it? Because whenever Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stood up for God, they They actually saved kingdoms. And so don't think that your faith isn't strong enough to do that, because you don't know what God has in store for you in your future. So stand up for your faith now, build your faith, read your Bible, pray to God, and let's see what God does with your life. I know you guys are very intelligent. There's some leaders in my class, and there's servants in my class, and you guys are probably the most helpful class that I could have. And you always are very eager to help, and you get along well with each other. You help each other out, and it's just neat to see that when you're getting along in our class. And that is just a true sign of God's Spirit in you whenever you're like that. And I really encourage you to keep that up. And hopefully I want to see you guys soon. So I want to get Christmas presents and cards ready, and I want to talk to your parents about whether I can maybe drop them off at your house just to say hello and see you and give you your Christmas present in person, because I don't know if I'll be able to any other way since we're not meeting. But anyways, I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have a great Christmas, and I'll talk to you next Sunday about Christmas. And I do want a picture of your Christmas tree and you. Remember, send it to 814-386-1865. Have a great weekend and an awesome Christmas. God bless.